Hey, what's up, kiddos? It's your boy NOY-Z, and I know it's been a while since I dropped a video, but I wanted to share an experience with you guys. With all the news about the protesters lobbying to have their state's government reopen, I was reminded of a time when I was unknowingly a part of a social experiment some 20 years ago. First, I want to be clear that my intent is not to pass judgment, only to share an experience and hopefully start a much needed conversation about race. Now, that's not to say that people aren't already talking about race, but rarely do we ever have that conversation with each other. Most of our conversations about people who are different than us are usually held at the dinner table or social events or even at church where the audience is like-minded. Far too often, what we learn about different cultures are taught to us by those that have no or limited experience with that demographic. Unfortunately, that also includes our trusted media outlets and our politicians who are charged with making decisions that affect all of us. If you want to learn about something or someone, it is best to have your own experiences like the one I had when I was only 16 years old. Now, with that being said, it's story time. This one time at summer camp, no, really. When I was 16, I spent a week at a summer camp and had an experience that I will never forget. From day one, the counselors kept stressing the importance of mingling. Every day they'd say, mingle, 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 get to know people, make new friends. So we did, but no matter how much mingling we thought we were doing, it never seemed to satisfy the counselors. And by day 4, they had reached a mingling breaking point. Because the morning of day 4, as we gathered at the flagpole, which if you've ever been to a summer camp, you already know this routine. It's what you do every morning before breakfast. You raise the flag and you hear the morning announcements. But this morning's announcements were different because on day 4, the camp director said that since we weren't mingling like they had asked, we were being assigned to groups for the rest of camp. We were all given a color to wear and instructed to gather with all the people that had that same color. Now, here's where things got interesting or strange. We were told that everything we did, we had to do as a group. Everything. So if one person had to use the restroom, we all had to go. And of course, we didn't have to actually go into the restroom, but we had to wait outside the door until that person was done. So we, gather with our groups and we head off to the mess hall for breakfast. There I was with my new assigned to me friends, eating breakfast, not thinking too much about the events of the day, when the counselor that was assigned to my group, who, by the way, was pretending to be just as shocked as we were about what just happened at the flagpole, shares an observation with us. She says, "Did anyone notice that you've been assigned to groups by race?" Sure enough, we all began to look around the mess hall and we noticed that everyone sitting at our table was black. Across the dining room for us were the white kids. Behind us were the Hispanic kids, and then the Asian kids, and then the Native American kids. So what was our immediate reaction? We just shrugged and went back to eating. After a few minutes, we see all the white kids stand up and exit their table. So we think, okay, someone in their group must have to use the restroom or go back up for seconds. Because remember, part of the rule was if one person had to go, the whole group had to go. Except for they didn't go towards the front of the mess hall where the restrooms were. they went towards the back of the mess hall. So to the back of the room was a door that led to a conference room area. And all the white kids got up and exited through that door. Now we're saying to ourselves, what the hell are the white kids doing? After a few minutes, the white kids return through the door and they stand at the back of the hall. Then one of the girls began to make an announcement. She says, I don't know what's happening here, but we, the white kids, aren't going to participate. We refuse to be segregated from the group. So at that moment, the camp director explains that we had been a part of an experiment that they conduct every week on the campers. And each week, the experiment would come to an end exactly the same way, with the white kids refusing to participate. He also noted that the experiment never seems to make it past breakfast. He explains that the reason that the white kids were the ones that would speak out is most likely because they were not used to being oppressed by an establishment. They most likely felt like their liberties or their freedoms were being stripped away from them. And they, quite frankly, weren't going to stand for it. Now, this should start to sound familiar as we are seeing nationwide protests to quarantine orders due to the current crisis. Some have legitimate concerns, in my opinion, about earning a living. Others are more concerned about obtaining creature comforts like haircuts and manicures. Either way, we see that the majority of these protesters fit a certain demographic, a demographic that is probably not used to being told what they could not do. But wait, there is more to the story. See, then the camp director turns to us, black kids, and accurately says, I'm willing to bet that the black kids hadn't even realized that they had been segregated by race. And he was right. And now that I think back on it, it's kind of embarrassing that out of everybody, we just didn't even realize that it happened. He said that every time they run this experiments, the black kids had to have this fact brought to their attention. He explains that what happened was so normal for us, the black kids, that absolutely no red flags ever get raised. As far as the other kids, they had realized that something had happened, but had chosen not to speak out about it as if they didn't want to cause any problems. I do believe this is why we see, at least in our society, black and white people doing most of the protesting, although our reasoning is rarely ever the same. Now, can you imagine a world where black and white people actually work together to resolve issues that are bigger than race? I've often been very grateful to my white friends who have pointed out situations where I had been discriminated against and was not even aware of it. I'll give you an example. One time I was in a liquor store with my white friend Kevin. This was back when we were doing our weekly radio show where we would like drink and have a good time. And then, we would just have the most off the wall conversations about any and everything. And let me know in the comment section if you would like to see that type of material brought to YouTube. I've thought about it, never got around to doing it, and now we're not doing it anymore. But I would gladly bring it back if you guys would be interested in seeing that. But anyway, so we're at the liquor store and we're buying our supply of alcohol for that week's discussion when I witnessed Kevin, who is like 6 foot 32 inches and 400 pounds of just Irishman, He's also a comedian, so he could take the jokes, all right? But Kevin walks behind the counter where most liquor stores keep their expensive or smaller bottles of liquor, which are most likely to be stolen. And he's just picking bottles off of the shelf, and he's like holding them in the air, asking me, hey, which bottles do you want? You want this bottle? You want this bottle? Also, he was standing behind an open cash register that the cashier had walked away from. I'm like, Kevin, what the hell are you doing? Get from behind the counter. And oddly enough, no one even said a word to him. Later that night on the radio program, I shared this story with the rest of our group and our listening audience. And it was at that point Kevin had explained that the reason why he was able to walk behind the counter unnoticed was because the store's employees were so busy watching me to make sure I didn't steal anything. I was absolutely blown away. I had no idea that that had even happened, because being followed in a store had become so normal. Just like that one time at summer camp. All right, folks, that's the story. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys thought. Do you agree with the camp director's assessment of why the white kids would be the ones that speak out about it, and why the black kids don't even realize that it happened? All right. Hope you enjoyed the story. And again, it was just something that crossed my mind. This is a true story. This actually did happen. And I thought I would share that with you guys with everything that's going on right now. Okay. And again, like, subscribe, have a drink, right? Because it's story time. Love, peace, hair grease. I'm out.